Let's try that again. Hello, and welcome along to the stream tonight. Indeed. and yeah, I thought I was being clever as well. I remembered that I had to unmute the mic, but then obviously OBS had decided that it wanted to not have this mic. It wanted to have another one. Anyway, welcome along. Hello to Kim and Maurice in the chat room. Good to see you both again, and I hope you're both doing well. So I thought tonight we'll do something a little bit different. So for the last few weeks, four maybe, we've been looking very much at cake.recipe and cake.issues.reporting.generic and Gazerator and all the things in between. Are you? Oh, Maurice, are you messing with me? Oh, there we go. So I thought So I don't know if you saw the last message I sent, Kim, or maybe I've missed something, but I got the integration test working on my Mac after doing a little bit of fiddling. So I hope that the integration tests are now running on Linux as well, but I've not triggered a build on the cake.recipes.test repository. But I think it might be working. But I felt we've been doing a lot of that work, and to change things up a little bit, I thought we could look at shipping a new version of the Cake extension for Azure DevOps. So the reason that I want to do this is because if we go and have a look over here, github.com/cake/cake hyphen, it's got an old name, which is VSO. So this extension was first created when it was Visual Studio Online. And before, I think even before that, it was referencing VSTS. So it's gone through a couple of iterations, this one. But basically, there's been a PR sitting since March, which converts the current Cake extension for Azure DevOps to a cross-platform task. So the one at the minute, so I'm in here in Azure DevOps, and I've got a pipeline, and I have added the Cake task. Now this thing under the hood is just executing a PowerShell script. So it's got a stripped down bootstrapper that is basically just running the cake.exe, which means it will only work on Windows agents without doing your own bootstrapping, which defies the point of having the Cake task in the first place. So Louis Fischer has created a PR. I haven't properly reviewed the PR yet, but he has created a cross-platform version of the task, which will mean it can run on any environment. So obviously Windows, Mac, or Linux. And the other benefit of that is that it's also switching to using the .NET Global tool for Cake. So the aim for tonight is to get to a point where we can start to look at this and potentially get it merged in. But before we can do that, we need to ship another interim release of the Cake extension for Visual Studio Code. Now, the reason I have to do that, it's a little bit annoying, but right now we are at 0.44 of the extension. But if we look at the task within Azure Pipelines, then I can't pin to that version, because you can't pin unless it's a major version. So even though we're following semantic versioning, because we haven't got to a public release, as in a 1.0.0, you can't pin to that version number. So I don't want to ship what is essentially a breaking change to the extension until I can allow people to pin to that version before switching over to the .NET Global tool version. So you could, in theory, merge it and release it with one, but then that would break anyone that, or are you saying having 2 tasks? I don't like the idea of having 2 tasks. So the idea is to ship a 1.0 release of the current version, and then immediately start to look to pull this in to ship a 2.0 version that has the cross-platform task in it. So that's where I want to get to. And then, if all of that goes well, I might finish early. I don't know. We'll see. So that's kind of the goal. I was also speaking to someone on Twitter who has informed me that there's a bug in the chocolatey extension for VS Code. So that's something else I need to add to my to-do list. But we'll get there. We'll get there. While I get started, Kim, are you able to start the integration tests for cake.recipe with the latest version, just to see if it's going to work? Oh no, most definitely is a bug. So I tested it earlier. Let me show you it. Thank you, Kim. That'd be great. So here's VS Code, and I don't have a folder open. But if I run the create new chocolatey package command, see, has anybody else noticed this in VS Code? Oh, you can't see it. It comes up with an error saying chocolatey is not installed, even though chocolatey definitely very much is installed. But the actual error message is this one: you have not yet opened a folder. So the new command expects that there's a workspace open with at least one folder in it, so it knows where to put the files that it's generated. But for some reason, when you run the new command, it comes up with an error saying chocolatey is not installed. Now, the person who reported this, she is. I'm going to get this wrong, I think, so I'm going to be very careful on what I say. But she is either visually impaired or she's completely blind. I can't remember which one it is, so I apologize if you're listening, Catherine. I do apologize. But the screen reader that she uses, for whatever reason, it only informs her about the first error message, and it's not reporting the second error message. So I would class that as a bug in VS Code because it's not showing up both error messages. But the fact that it's saying chocolate is not installed when it definitely is installed, that's a bug in our extension. So we need to fix that at some point. So I'm adding that to my to-do list at some point in the near term, because that's not ideal. So I need to get that fixed. But for tonight, we are looking at shipping a new version 1.0.0 of the extension for Azure DevOps, and then we're going to look at the PR that Louis has put in to change their cross-platform task. So that's what I've got planned. So yeah, what's going on in your guys' worlds? Anything exciting happening? While I get a few things set up here, because it's been a long time since I've looked at this code base. So there might be a little bit of stumbling about, because yeah, it's been a long time since I've looked at this code base. So I did run the build to make sure that it works, and I'm happy to say that it is. Still hot over there, is it, Maurice? It was cold again here today. It changed. The weather changed. We were down to like 15 degrees Celsius today. Were you up in the 30s again, or? Because like I said to you the other day, I would melt. I would literally melt if that was the temperature. I wouldn't be able to cope with that. Normal temperature here. So what's normal in your neck of the woods, Kim, for this time of the world? The whole week it will be 30. Nah, just no. There's going to be a high of 21 seemingly on Wednesday. That's as high as we're going to get. And even that's too hot for me. 12. See, that's more sensible. That's my kind of temperature, Kim. Right. So I run the build works, and the results of that build is a v6 file. So that's exactly what we want. So I went and had a look at the issues. So I set the issues up a little bit. So I created a new milestone, which was 1.0.0, and into there I've put in a couple of things because there were some already closed issues on the develop branch. So I've included them in the 1.0 release. And 28. Jeez. As discussed on Gitter, if you do this, are you thinking of re-releasing? So that question was... okay, so that was a standalone issue. That was fixed in 0.4.4. So this one will go out. So in theory, I should be able to do git checkout -b release 1.0.0 from develop. And if I were to run the build here, in theory, I should get some artifacts that are created that have 1.0.0 in it. So let's just test that out. Let's test that hypothesis. See, that's my kind of temperature, Kim. I'll be honest. I'd much prefer to be cold than hot. I really do. So let's see where we get to with this. And I think one of the things that I did, so we got a 1.0.0 release, good. One of the things I did was to include, or maybe it wasn't, or was it Git Release Manager? Oh, it was. Look, so I've included the new functionality in Git Release Manager, which closes off the issues that are created. So that's good. Okay, so in theory, I should be able to mark this one as close. And assuming that everything, oh, I might not have the, no, I wouldn't do that. What was I thinking there? What was I thinking? I was going to run the create release notes. That's what it was. As to whether I had the right environment variables. I may have to come off stream a little bit to check if I have the environment variables set up or not. So in the build, in the parameters, I will have cake VSO. Yeah, let me be right back, and I will check if I've got those environment variables set up on my machine. If I don't, I will put them in. So give me just a second. And my mic's then muted. I have to remember that. I'm going to mute it. Okay, I think I'm back, and I think I have added the required environment variable. So I don't like the hot either, but I don't like it cold as well. Around 88 degrees usually are perfect. But last week was terrible. Hello. So cd back into GitHub, organizations, cake -vso. And then in here, if I do a build with target equals release notes, then in theory, it should generate a new set of release notes with, I think there's 3 issues in it. And if that goes well, get release manager. Okay, that worked. So that was good. So if I come over here and I look at releases, there we go. Release major version of the extension, use token. Beautiful. Okay, so then if we do the little dance and we do git checkout master, and we do a git merge no ff of the release into there, then we should be able to do git push upstream. I am aware of that, but that means copy and pasting. So yeah, I don't think that can be a clickable link, can it? I don't think there's any way to do that. I mean, that would be immense. If that could be a clickable link, that would be amazing. But I was aware that it was in there, yes. Dang it. So I'm going to push that to the upstream, and then I'm going to do git push origin. And assuming all of that goes through, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, that should allow us to ship a 1.0.0 to the marketplace. And assuming that that goes well, then I'm going to pull this PR down and have a look at it. There are some consoles that allow it, but that is automatic, I think. Okay. Because it would be pretty cool. Oh, Kim, I saw that you were playing with Patrick's new Spectre.console that's got all sorts of shiny new stuff in it. What is it? I've not had a chance to play with it yet, but it does look very shiny. Or as Mateus said on Slack, it looks spectacular. See what we did there? I didn't think it was funny, but it was a little bit funny. Okay, so that was successful. So in theory, I should be able to go into here, edit this, and put it as a release, and then in my history, spectaculous indeed. I just made that word up. So I'm going to ship this, I think. And if this goes through, then over on our Visual Studio Code marketplace, if I go over here, and then I look in here, and then I look in Cake, and over here, it's currently at version 0.4.4. So when this completes, we should get a 1.0.0 if everything works. Let's have a little look. Completed operation, uploading appware artifacts, publishing extension. Let's see what it does. See what it does. And then if I go back to here, I think, and I look at organization settings, and I look at extensions, then in here, I can make sure that I've got the latest version, and we can see if we can pin to it. which should appear in the drop-down list where it wasn't before. Where there's just a 0 point. Well, there's basically nothing in it just now. So it's taking a minute, but I think what it's doing now is it's the way that the TFX CLI is working. It publishes it and it does a bunch of validations and then eventually comes back with it was successful. So the fact that this is taking a minute is encouraging, because I think on the back end it's doing some stuff before it returns to say that it worked. So I'm not worried yet. I'll wait and see. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I see what you were saying now. That's crazy. Okay. Starting to get a little bit worried. But while we're waiting on that, what I was going to do, because I think there's at least one thing that I wanted to change in this PR. I'm going to go ahead and get Lewis's git remote -v git remote add Louis Fischer into there. I think these changes are just, yeah, that's fine. Oh, it did it. It did it. Okay, so it's just sent a getter message out, which is good. And over here, is this now 1.0.0? Oh, it is, right, okay. Progress being made. If I refresh this, look at that, that's already 1.0.0, so that's good. So if I come back over here and look at my first project, and I look at pipelines, and I look at this guy, and I look at this guy, then in theory, I should, oh, look at that. Right, beautiful. Okay, cool. It should have been called my first cake. So if I were to save that, that's then pinned version 1. So that's good. Okay, so that's the first part done. So over here, git checkout develop, git merge, this should be a no op, no ff into the release. Done. Okay, cool. And then over here, let's just check a few things out. If I refresh this, oh, look at that, so shiny. Added the v6, added all that. And then if we look at these issues, then they'll have a nice little comment to say that it was done. Love it. Love it. Okay. So we've done all that stuff. So now we're going to look at this one. So for this one, I am going to do a git fetch from Louis. I'm going to do a git checkout of the branch from Lewis's remote. Git reset hard. Run that again. That's not what I want. Git status. Let's remove the package lock.json. Then I should be able to do this. Okay, good. So run there, git rebase onto develop. So let's have a little look at what is going on in this PR. In fact, one of the things that I wasn't sure on, and I don't know if either of you have seen this before, but one of the things that Louis added was, do not recover. One of the things that Louis added was a new project type called an NJS project. I don't think I've ever seen one of those before. I have a suspicion about what it is, but I don't know if I need a particular extension in order to open it or whether it's supported. So I was going to open this in Visual Studio to see what it does. GitHub, organizations, cake, and he added a solution file. See, unsupported. So that brings up the question of whether there's an extension that I need. NJS Proj Visual Studio 2019. Oh, it looks like I would need Node.js development installed. Interesting. Well, I'm not going to install you just now, but add remove programs. Visual Studio. Modify. I'm curious as to what workloads I currently have. Yeah. I'm wondering if I'm going to run out of space on my hard drive here. Because it looks like I may need to add an additional workflow for support of that project type. So if I do, I mean that's an addition to the README to support that. I did have 5 gigabytes of space. I saw the red text, but I don't know how much an additional workload. It shouldn't add that much, right? Let's wait and see, because I'm not sure if it'll let me install an additional workload while there is a pending update. So we have some exciting times ahead. Let's see what it does. Did you both see my tweet about my new series of videos on YouTube? Have you checked it out? Remove some of the old. Yeah, there's. Oh, you see, I need to go back and have a look at Geert's GitHub or Git Cleaner Upper tool that didn't work a couple of streams ago. Good man. See this one. I'm going to click on that. 45 meg. It's fine. Let's do it. Let's do it. Before we get started, save your work. Select continue. Do it. Do it. I saw something that looked like NJS Proj flying past there. So I think we're on the right track here. Oh, come on. You flew up to 99% and you're stuck on the last 1%. Ah. Fingers crossed. There we go. Cleaning up, installing. Yeah, I'm not going to do that today. But if I open up back up Visual Studio and go back and try and open that solution. Hello, Brett. How are you, sir? Do you remember installing Office 2000? Not knowingly. Where do you see Office 2000? I got up to sorry, I see what you're saying. I remember getting up to 50%, stuck for a while, and then it said it was. I do remember things like that actually. How are things in your part of the world tonight, Brett? We're installing Node.js development workloads for Visual Studio because that's the way I roll. And what that means is I've actually got no idea what I'm doing. But if we don't get an error message here, we're making progress. It's a bit cooler, yeah. We were just speaking about the weather earlier. Maurice was saying it's 28 degrees where he is at the minute. Okay, so I've never seen this project type in Visual Studio before. So what does it do? So this is a node project, so it specifies where node.exe lives. It's got a startup file. So what's the startup file for this project? It doesn't have a startup file. It just has a folder. Okay, so I'm going to take this off. So he's included all of the source files for the project into here, which is fine. So what happens if I build this? Oh, build failed. That's not a good start. Output, build failed. TypeScript compiler is not installed. Please execute. Oh, I'll have to do let's check that out then. If I go to here, if I do, that's clearly not going to work. ls. Is there a package.json file? What's in that package.json file? That's the next question. So is that included here? Package.json. Does this one have a TypeScript entry? It does. So that means we need to do an npm install. So if we do an npm install here, things should start working. Got a sudden phone call, which is rare this late in the evening. Was that on a landline? I've not had a phone call on a landline in a long time. Okay, so having done that, if I run the build again, you can't really see the bottom right hand corner, but it's saying build started. So we're making progress. So I'm curious as to what this will do if we run it. No, it can't. Oh, build succeeded though, so that's promising. So what happens if I run this? Has anyone ever used one of these node projects before in Visual Studio? Oh, I see. That's not good. No landline here. Haven't had a landline since the 90s, I think. So we still have a landline because we regular phone calls from one of our grandparents who kind of refuses to ring mobiles. So we kind of have to keep the landline around for those calls, and that's literally it. We don't make any outgoing phone calls on the landline, but we do get the odd incoming phone call. Please select a startup file to launch by right-clicking the file in Solution Explorer. Set as Node.js startup file. See, I don't know what that would do. Because the one I would want to set it to is this one. But I don't think it would actually do anything. See what you did there. Should maybe try that. Set as node. See, that won't work because that's not a. Oh, is that because it wasn't built? No, it can't be that because because I've hidden them now. So if I go into here, where did I output it to? Is it in here? Would it be that one? What happens if I say set that as the start file and run it? I don't honestly think it'll do anything. I'm just curious as to why Louis added this project type, because I don't think you can debug or run a task locally. I'm just a little bit curious as to what's going on. Well, let's give it a try. I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about this, but I'm genuinely curious as to what will happen. Debugger attached. Oh, it's loading something. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to work. Okay. I'm not going to spend too. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but I am curious as to the change that was just made. So let's have a look. Commit. Testing. They can go away. And I'm going to undo that. Looks like we'll need to add a git ignore entry for those files. Let's get that added. Is it this one? I genuinely don't know, Kim. I mean, the only... Who's out of space? What? Me? No. I never found a way of editing. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. In terms of debugging an extension for Azure DevOps, I think you kind of have to. I think, or when I've done it in the past for this one, I've always just kind of pushed it and kind of hoped, to be honest. I think you can have an unpublished one that you can use privately, but I'm just curious as to why Louis created the project. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I'm just curious. But if I go into the git ignore file and I go down here and I can say .bs, then those changes should go away. So I'm going to do mint ignore.bs folder. This doesn't need to go to go into, I'll get there yet, source control. Okay. Yes. So let's have a review of the PR. That's what I wanted to do next. So let's have a look. So he made some additions to the .getignore file, which is fine. So settings, node modules, lib, sudo, all of these kind of needed to be added because of the new project type that was added. So that's fine. He added this NJS proj, so the Node.js project file. GUID, home, show all files. Excuse me, Rodney? I was talking about you earlier and I just saw you go live. How is everything? I'm good, thanks, sir. How are you? How are you as a new elected official of the .NET Foundation Board? Has your life changed? Has it? I'll be honest, I voted for you, Rodney. You were my first choice. You got my vote, sir. We are playing with a new extension for Cake for Azure DevOps, and I am currently trying to figure out what a Node.js project is and how it helps me to that end. Everyone's sending you ideas. I can imagine. Well, see, this is the part I don't understand, Rodney, because the extension uses TypeScript, but the person who submitted this PR has included a Node.js project to house all the files. So I'm just not clear on what the benefit is really to having the overhead of the the project if I can't actually debug it, if that makes sense. I mean, the heart of this change is this new TypeScript file that I'm assuming is what is going into the task that is then shown in Azure DevOps. But we're into the mix of this. We're a new experience for me. So a lot of this, so enable TypeScript is an option within this project. So I guess that makes sense in terms of what we are using. TypeScript compile blocked. Oh, interesting. Okay. And then added in a bunch of items into here. These were all the existing files, and then included a bunch of folders, imported common targets and Node.js targets. That makes sense. And then these are for if you are actually running something out of this. These are the project settings for that, but I can't see that that's going to work because Silverlight debugging. Wow. Okay. Good stuff. He added a solution file, which makes sense also. And then the task.json is the thing that controls what appears in here. So all of these, display name, cake script, target, verbosity, those are all controlled through the task.json file. So what he's done is he has, oh, look at that. Oh, he's added that part in. So hold on. There was an issue on, let's go back to here. There was an issue created by Joseph, which was to include the ability to bootstrap the modules. So that looks like this would be catered for in this release because Louis has included a new option, which is to bootstrap, which is a boolean, bootstrap the cake script using the bootstrap option. Default value is false, required false. Download install modules defined by the module directives in the cake script file. Look at that. And he's put that into advanced. So down here, there would be another bootstrap option. Okay, so I like that already. I like that one. Version string .NET Cake version of .NET Cake to use for running the script, only valid on cross-platform node agent, defaults to latest version. Okay, and that's in advanced again as well. So we will be able to specify the version of the Cake.NET tool that we install. Okay, like that as well. So then execution PowerShell 3. Why is that still in there then? Oh, interesting. Why has he kept that around? Oh, that's interesting. So no, so the thing here is, so this execution here, this PowerShell 3 execution is the original one. So the original Cake extension for Azure DevOps was Windows only. So he's added in a second execution, which is Node, but kept the other one around. But to me, what that means is if I'm running on Windows, I wouldn't be using the Node. I wouldn't be using the .NET Global tool. I'd be defaulting to this. I'm more inclined to remove all of this and leave only the Node execution, so that on all. So that's the question. I mean, I'm fully intend that this release is going to be a breaking release. So the question is, do we only run with the .NET Global tool? Is that the right approach? I mean, our recommendation going forward, I mean, the documentation on our website is changing to recommend by default that you should use the .NET Global tool. Node is executing, well, it's not so much Node, it's, if we scroll down here a little bit, Node, it's invoking the new TypeScript file, and within this index.js file, if we scroll down, within here, it's then running the .NET Global tool, yes. So Node is invoking it in the same way that this changes to be very similar to how the GitHub action works for Cake. So, excuse me, I'm inclined to change this to remove the PowerShell 3 execution. That's what I think. And then because we've now allowed folks to pin to the earlier version, anyone wanting to continue to use the PowerShell bootstrapper, pin to version 1. Anyone wanting to use the new version, pin to version 2. That's what I'm thinking. So in the task.json file, I think what I want to do is I want to take this out. I think. Which changes this So now this applies to everything because everything's using the same thing. I think. Let me keep reviewing, see how far we get through this. So we've viewed that. This npm run build script is dependent on that. Npm install npm run script build. So what got added there? Oh, that's in the, that must be in the package.json file. The package.json file has a build, which then is running that. Did he change that? Package. Oh, he added the package.json file. It's a completely new file. So that is because previously, what was the build doing previously? So in the build.cake file, what were we doing before? So we were running npm install, we were installing that, and then, oh, I see. We were just running this. Okay. So now, because he's added in the TypeScript stuff, he now needs to run the npm run transcompile and npm run bundle. Interesting. Okay, I'm okay with that part. So npm run build script is dependent on npm install, and npm run build script is added. I'm so confused. Npm run build script. That's a top level task. That's not being called anywhere. Should that not be getting called somewhere in order to because if we don't, not a problem. Kim, thank you for joining. I hope you have a good day tomorrow. Should this not be run as part of, let me test something. So if I come into here and I delete this index.js, index.js, class.json, I'm so confused. Cake.js. Good stuff. So then it runs that, which then creates the cake.js. So we haven't run that yet. So we don't have a cake.js yet. So if I come back to here and I say build target equals npm, what's it called? npm run build script. npm run build script. I think that's going to create a cake.js for us from the TypeScript file. But if it does that, then I need to have that as part of the build process, because otherwise that will never get created on AppVeyor, so it will never get published. Oh, it absolutely should. Yes, no, Rodney, you're absolutely right. I mean, but if that's not being called as part of the build, then that cake.js file will never get created. Compiling file index.js. Task command. I'm a little bit confused. I'm genuinely not sure, Rodney. So I think this ncc build source cake.ts with the output task would create it. Seeing as how you can target a specific commit in GitHub for an AZ task, either they generate it on the fly or it has to be pre-compiled in the repo, I think. So if this file here is get ignored, so I'm going to delete that, right? And I am going to run that again to see if that creates an index.js file. And if it does, then that tells me something. But let's see if it recreates that index.js file. So using TypeScript, compiling file index.js. So it did indeed put it back in there. So my next question is, does this thing have any mention of cake? So this has got all the stuff in it. Okay. So my next question is, if I delete this again and I run just the build without calling the npm run build script, does my index.js file get created again? Because if it doesn't, see, that's running package extension. So it's already taking that thing. So that hasn't created the index.js file. So I think what's needed here is that before we run the package extension, we need to run this guy. Copy. I'm going to put this in here. Here is dependent on that. And then if I run this, it's a little bit of a guess. So we update the JSON versions. We update, we run the build script, which will generate our index.js in this folder. And then that's the entry point for the task. So then my question becomes, what is this guy doing here? Because we don't have a cake.js. We have an index.js. We have a cake.ts, but we don't have a cake.js. So I'm wondering whether that, I mean, this is all guesswork at this point. I'm wondering whether that should be index.js, which is the entry point for the thing. Wild ass guess. But while I'm here, I'm going to search for cake.ps1, and I'm going to take this out because we're not going to have the cake.ps1 anymore. So source cake.ts. Yeah. Okay. So I'm happy that the build is going to build and include it now. What I would love to know is how I test this. Because what happens if I do an npm start here? What does that do? Loading inputs, endpoint, set that. Input required. So it's running it. Task result failed, and I haven't provided it a script. It's expecting there to be a script input, and there isn't one. So it's invoking it's invoking this, and it's expecting there to be a script. Sorry, I'm going to geek out for a second. A friend of mine pointed me to a go-kart track in Missouri that has 14 real-life Mario Kart tracks. That sounds kind of awesome. Do you have a link, Maurice? Can I not find that? So in here, there's expecting there to be a script. And then it's expecting to resolve to that thing. bransontracks.com. Okay, hold on. Let me bring it up because this sounds awesome. Experience 3 unique high-rise go-kart tracks, including heavy metal rise and the 2 Ferris wheels. Let's have a look at the go-karts. Oh wow, look at that. Wild Woody. I want to look at Wild Woody. I've never seen a go-kart track that goes like up and down like that. That looks amazing. Never seen anything like that. This is Missouri though? That's a long way to go. Long way to go. Oh, look at that. Go-kart tracks over here are all on the flat. I'm not aware of anything like this in the UK. That kid looks terrified. I know he's loving it now. Okay, I'm enough of that. But that looks awesome. No bananas and shield. So I'm going to say that one's okay. So this one here, I'm going to say no to that. Don't save that. This is no longer just installing the TFX CLI, so that's now technically wrong. So I'm going to go say no. Install npm packages, let's say, because it's no longer just doing one install npm nom. It's not going to work, is it? Okay, fine. And then let's just check the build again. A moderator team building day. I'm going to say that you should definitely suggest that, Maurice. Definitely. Okay, so that's still... I haven't broken anything, I don't think, so far. But no, that's not going to work. No, that's not going to work. Because that's only there installing, ensuring the NCC is there. So... I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to say that install npm packages is dependent on... No, that's a silly idea. Why would I do that? I'm going to say that this is dependent on that. And I'm going to say that that is dependent on that. let's try that again. Because the install npm packages now installs the ncc package, and the ncc package is what's used in the build here to do whatever needs to happen. So we install npm, we do an npm install, which resolves all of the package JSON dependencies, and these are additional things that are added, including ncc, and then ncc is run as part of this. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So where do we get to in the review? So he's also updated the version number within the package.json file, so that looked good, because that was commented on here by Patrick a good while back. Run a build script for your Azure DevOps build release task. We've changed that. Repository is a Git repository pointing here. Cake build Azure DevOps MIT dev dependencies. Looks good. So then what is this thing doing? So we import the path, we import the Azure Pipelines task library, and then we import the tool runner from, or we port it into a tool runner object for this thing. Then we run disable telemetry and first time experience, set variables. That looks good. We then define some constants. One is the script, defaults to build.cake, gets the target. So that's everything that's going to be coming from these things. Okay, so far so good. So we define a target and we default to default. Verbosity is normal. Arguments comes from here. Okay. Tools feed URL. Tool feed URL. What was that for again? Tool feed URL. Use an alternative NuGet package feed for NuGet and tools defaults to NuGet.org. Okay. Bootstrap is coming from Bootstrap, and then we get the version number from the version. Local variables, resolve the root path from the script that we passed in. Tool path is it's assumed to be a tools folder from the root path. Cake tool path is then either .NET Cake or .NET Cake.exe. So those are the shims for the global tool. Fine. Console.log, we put those things out. Fine. Check if there's a tools directory. Have we not just, I'm a little bit confused there. Have we not just assumed that there's a tools folder? That's a little bit strange. But okay. Install Cake tool. If it doesn't exist, so if that path doesn't exist, then we specify if a version is not equal to null, and version is not equal to undefined, and version is not equal to empty string. Console.log installing Cake version, and then we do .NET tool install toolpath to the toolpath version to the version of the package cake.tool. So at this point, toolpath is just the tools. Okay, fine. Else installing Cake tool latest. Fine. Make sure it's properly downloaded. If we're not existing the Cake tool path, so that's where this Cake tool path was specified, and it's either one or t'other. Fine. Then we throw an error. Bootstrap the script. If we're bootstrapping, we're bootstrapping the build script. bootstrap exit code equals await execute cake toolpath with the script and the bootstrap parameter. If bootstrap is not equal to 0, failed to bootstrap, fine. Executing the build script, exit code is equal to cake toolpath with the script. Yeah, we're going to need to change that. So my TypeScript thing here, that is going to want to be target. That's going to want to be verbosity. Paths, tools, fine. Okay. So we modified that slightly. Error, and then run. Set result, succeeded. Catch error, fine. Okay, so what would be nice to be able to do would be to see this run. So the first thing to test would be, do I have .NET Cake installed globally? Just thinking. Oh, it did look. Okay. So my next question is, how do I pass an argument into... No, because that shouldn't have errored before. Should it? Because it should have defaulted. So what I'm currently thinking is when we were up here, that's not going to work, is it? I'm just scrolling indefinitely here. Let's just wait for this to finish. When I did an npm start before, we should have been invoking the index.js, and I read it as erroring on not having a script. But the way I read this, if it didn't get one, it should have defaulted to be build.cake. So input required is script. So how do I pass an argument into npm start? Pass argument into npm start. I'm sort of winging it here. That was really the first thing that came up on my Google search. So that didn't work. Let me just see if we can do this index.js. So that should result in the same thing, right? Okay, so what if we do script equals build.cake? That's the same thing. It would be nice to test this out, but I don't know how to test this out. How to test types. I don't even know what to search for. How to test Azure DevOps task execution locally. Let's have a look at create Azure DevOps task. How would one do that, Rodney? Where do you're talking about within your YAML file? I see what you're talking about there. Add a build or release task. To create an extension for Azure DevOps, you need the following software and tools: an organization, a text editor, latest version of Node, absolutely, TypeScript compiler, TFS cross-platform. Yep, got all those things. A home directory in your project, fine. Create a custom task, create task scaffolding. That we have that. Got all of those things. Create a TypeScript, fine. We define our task.json file. We have that. We have the execution. We're doing that. Index.ts. Create an index.ts file by creating the following code as a reference. We run the task. Input required sample string. Okay. As a fix, we can set the sample string input and run the task again. How does one do that? Oh, look at that. Okay. Copy. Yeah, that should work. So if we were to do script build.cake and we run that again. Nope. So where's sample string coming from? Or input, sorry, I did that wrong. Hold on. Input underscore. I'm going to put it all, I'm going to shout input script. Oh, look at that. It changed. Okay, so if I do this then, input script equals, oh, come on. You see, it needed something. I don't like it needing something. Input script target default verbosity. Seriously, verbosity normal. Look at that. It's installing. So what's it doing? Is it now installing? Hold on. See, GitHub, organizations, Cake VSO, tools. Oh, look at that. Look at that. So now running npm start is now running the build.cake file of this project using the .NET Global tool that it just resolved and added into interesting. So the part that I'm confused about and the part that I don't understand well enough is, let me let that finish. Very much Inception, yeah. So the part that I'm not 100% about, I mean, there's a lot of this that I'm not 100% about, I'll be honest. The part that I'm really not 100% on, though, is this one. Sure, Roddy, let me copy. I'll put it into the chat here, look. That one. The part that I'm a little bit confused about is in here, it says task library, get input script. Now this to me should say that if this script isn't defined, default to build.cake. So why is that part not running? Why do I need to set this environment variable to make it work? Because to me, that should is it this? Where's my F12? It's a required property. So this default into this actually doesn't do anything. This can't do anything because it's saying that this is a required property. So if we took this off, like that, and we ran the build again. So we'll run the build again to regenerate the index.js from the cake.ts with that modification in place. I think if we then just run npm start without setting those environment variables, so the question then becomes, how do I clear out those environment variables? We'll come to that in a minute. So will that work? I'm willing to give that a try. So if I do env, what was it? Input target, that is default. So you're saying I can do clear variable? Does it just need a name? Does it just need the name, Maurice? Clear variable input target? Clear variable, what does it take? Name, dash name. Input target. Cannot find a variable with input target. That didn't work. I wonder if it's because it's a local variable. Can I just say equals? Did that? Oh, okay, sorry. Clear variable env, as in like this. Input target. Cannot find a variable. Oh, it's reading it. Oh, hold on, I see. Dash name. No, that won't work either. No, that won't work either. I'll get there in the end. Let me just try resetting it. Beautiful. Okay, fine. This will work though. So if I do this and say verbosity, and the other one was, what was the other one? Script. So script has got nothing in it. So if I now run npm start again, I think this will now work. Yeah, so it's running. So yeah, even though they're empty string, this check here, Maurice, was basically saying, get me this, and if it's nothing or null or whatever, give me this. So that's why this is running. So those variables are still there, they just don't have a value, so it's defaulting. But by making them a required parameter, this option at the end didn't make any sense. So this needs to come out. Because, well, it either needs to come out or it needs to edit, undo again, edit, undo. You can't have a required parameter and a default in this thing here. So it's either one or the other. It's not both. So the task.json has currently got them set as it is a required value. So yeah, having a default doesn't make sense because they're required. So if we go back to over here, yeah, they're already, so you wouldn't be able to pass them in as blank. So over here in the task.json, setting the default here doesn't make any sense either. We want to enforce that they are required. So this is true, the default comes out. This is true, the default comes out. So what else was true in our task.json? So the script is true, the target's true, the verbosity is true, and the rest are all false. Beautiful. Okay, so that fixes that part, I think. If there's no arguments, they are an empty string. If the tool URL is not there, so what's the difference between arguments and tool field? Argument is a string, tool field is a string as well, so why not just be explicit about that too then? And if there's no version is a string, so why not be explicit about that too? Why not put that as an empty string? Oh, I see why he did that. He did that to get around TypeScript. Because TypeScript was telling him that this is undefined. I see why he did that. Because if we do this and make this build.cake, then this will go away. See, that's just cheeky. And I'm going to say that whatever he was using target, it's also now got an error. It's not showing up there. If I take this back off again, cut, then that's going to light up saying it's not undefined. Gotta love TypeScript. But why is target not complaining? Why is target and verbosity not complaining? Why is I don't understand enough about TypeScript to say why it complains here but not here. And if I were just to do $, was it curly brackets? It is. If I were to do this, I see it wouldn't go away there either. I'm reluctant to do it, but I will. Reluctant. You know what, let's just put them all back in again. So this was default, and then this was normal. Fine. So if I run my build again. So are we going to YOLO this? Am I going to push out a version and see what it does? What do we think? Because aside from the changes that I've made, I think I'm reasonably happy that it's going to go out. But there is a question in my head over the readme.md file. So is there anything in the readme that we would need to change? What's the no for? Oh no, sorry. One can always switch the version. Yes, correct. What's the no for, Rodney? How would one test it? How would one test this? Let's have the STS there. I need to take that out too. If there's a way to test it, I'm more than happy to try that. Can I take the v6 that I have here and put it somewhere? So while we're here, while I'm waiting on Rodney, I think there's a lag between what I'm saying and what Rodney's hearing, so it's easier for GitHub Actions. So this is going to be GH14, remove usage of PowerShell execution. Let's commit some of these changes while I'm thinking about a few things. So the task.json would be this part. So stage those ones. So let me get this committed and then we'll have a look and see where we get to. So extension manifest JSON, that's just the version number, so I don't care about that one. That's that one. those are version number changes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one. GH-14 update cake tag, ensure that NCC is installed before using it. That's this one. So we'll put that one up there and commit that. What did we change on that line? Oh yeah. Default all values. Also ensure usage of options. So that was just a version number bump, which I don't care about. That was a version number bump, which I don't care about. This one I do care about. So we'll stage that one. GH14 update file name. There is no cake.js file. The cake.ts file is converted to an index.js file. So that one's a wild ass guess, that needing to be done. So that one was version number bump, version number bump, version number bump, version number bump, and this one was, oh, that was that should be rebased. Rebase 1.2 PowerShell removal. So I'll fix that one in a sec. Okay, so what I'm thinking, Rodney, is that if I come over here and I say update, I can drag and drop, but I can also unpublish. So I'm wondering whether I can put in a unit test your task scripts. No. Create success test, create failure test, create the extension, files, package your extension. So we've got that part, publish your extension, create the publisher, done that, upload it, share. Now that you've uploaded your extension to the marketplace, no one can see it. Share with your organization. So let's say I don't. Create and build. How to test Azure DevOps extension without publishing. When testing a new version of your extension, you need to use either a different extension ID or a different publisher ID, and the test extension will be marked public as false. Oh, hold on. There is something. Oh, there's something coming back to me here. Public. This one. I wonder if I were to change that to be false. And the test extension must be marked as false. There are multiple ways to make this process easy. I personally use the Azure DevOps extension tasks. What's that? Azure pipelines task for packaging and publishing Azure DevOps. Yeah, okay, fine. But for my own product extension, I have a build definition that builds either the public version or the private version. In the past, I don't really want to have to do that. Yeah, so in this Stack Overflow post, let me paste this into the chat as well. In this Stack Overflow answer, this guy has got multiple versions where the ID is the same, but he has got private versions of it. I didn't necessarily want to have to do that. And then he kind of appends it with, what are you showing me here? Install. Yeah, but that's yeah, so that's how you do it in a GitHub action. Yes, absolutely, you can do that. I don't think we have the same ability in Azure DevOps though, to target a tag. Okay. But that would mean, oh, I see what you're getting at. So if I were to, what are you showing me here? So this is an Azure Pipelines repository RSG refs endpoint. But the other part of this is, I mean, this is manageable, but in the current one, in my test pipeline, I'm not using YAML. I'm just using the builder. I don't think I'd be able to do that in here. I'd need to switch to a YAML build. Part of me's tempted to YOLO it. I've got about 11 minutes left, Rodney. I'm tempted just to YOLO it. I know that's terrible. I'm going to undo that change so that I don't save it. I don't know how to do what you want in Azure DevOps. I don't either. I don't either. Part of me is very tempted. Very tempted. But let me rebase that change out. Git rebase -I on develop. Let me put it back to where it wanted to be. So this one, cut that and put it up to here. So Nancy Sinatra already sang about only living twice. Love it. Here, that wants to be an F. Sure. Git push -F to Louis. What to do? Oh, what did I do there? Let's change all the line endings. That's disappointing. I've got 2 shippets in the chat room. You guys shouldn't be encouraging me. That's terrible. So if I run this locally, it does run. And the execution that is invoked from my task.json is to run node targeting the index.js. So the index.js is in the root of this task folder. I know that that runs, and I know that it does what it's meant to do. Worst case, unpublished. That's a very good point. At the very least, I'm not sure what to say to that, Rodney. At the very least, I think what I want to do is I want to do a git checkout of my develop. In fact, I'm going to say review looks good to me. I'm going to merge this into develop. Well, I sort of expect there to be bug reports anyway, because I'm shipping a version 2 and we've removed the execution of. So I'm going to say, Louis, I made a few changes to this, but on the whole, this was a great PR. Thank you very much for providing this comment. Okay, so git fetch upstream, git checkout develop. That didn't work. I can't type. I still can't type. Git rebase upstream develop. Develop. Why is this better? Git push origin. So if we go up here, this should already be closed and should be assigned to the 02 milestone. The 02 milestone, this has been closed out as well because Louis added that option. So git checkout -b release 2.00 from develop, and if we do build target equals release notes, I'm tempted. I haven't done it yet. I'm tempted to though. If only someone else from the cake team was here to stop me. There is no try, only do. Git checkout master. Git merge I'm getting very close to doing it. No FF from the release branch. Git push upstream. Let's see if the build works. I probably should do that first. See if the build works. If the build doesn't work, then we can't ship it. Dun dun dun. I really don't like that this is still called cake-VSO. It's something we have to change at some point. See if the build works, and then I'll make a decision. Releases. Dun, dun, dun. Take this off. There's a big green button here. A big green button to push. Yeah. 2 minutes left before my Why is this build taking so long? Oh, that was app fair. So the build worked. Did the build actually work? Did it actually do everything? Package extension, cleaned, run the npm build script. That's just it did the index.js. It packaged the extension. Oh, I should actually hold on. Let's check that one thing before we do anything. Let's have a look in the build results, and then let's do copy paste that. Let's have a little looky inside of this thing. In the task folder, there's the index.js. Oh, hold on. We don't need any of this stuff anymore. Where's that PS modules folder coming from? Well, we've obviously merged it now. I don't think we need that PS modules anymore. So that would be in what was it called? The VSTS task SDK. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. This can come out at some point, because that's only needed if we're using the PowerShell stuff. But now that we're not referencing that, I think we can take that out at some point. You know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. I think I've convinced myself I'm going to try it. Will we do it? I think I'm going to do it. Let's do it. I've done it. It's done. It's going out. I might regret this tomorrow. We'll see. So over here, we have version 1 still. What I'm curious about is whether it automatically updates me to be on. Let's put this back to here, which is where most folks will have it. So I'm on task version 0. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I got a cheer. Thank you very much, Maurice. How do you take that back when it breaks? Just because you regret it doesn't mean it will. Well, there is that. There's some logic to that. I agree with that. So now there's a slight delay as we saw in the actual publishing. So we have to wait a minute anyway and wait for that to actually ship. But while we're here, I should probably create an issue. Don't include VSTS task SDK in v6. These files are no longer required since we are switching to a cross-platform build task. I'm going to say that that's a bug. I'm going to assign myself to it, and most likely this is going to be a 0.2.1. I completely said that wrong. Yeah, so it's at the point that it's publishing it. So over here, if I do a wee refresh, it's verifying. I'm curious what the unpublished does, i.e. does that unpublish the entire extension, or does it unpublish just the package version? I suspect it's the whole thing. Just thinking. Can't remember how long it took last time. It took at least a couple of minutes to go through the verification process. Oh no, I think it just worked, or it's just finished. It did. So if we refresh this, we've got version 2 here. If we go back to our organization and look at our installed extensions, then it's now at version 2 latest. So back over here in our project, in my pipeline, and in my here, if I edit this, then this task here now has the option of being any one of those. So if I do version 2 and I say save in queue, what does it do? What does it do? What does it do? What does it do? Just thinking. Oh, come on, don't make me wait. Come on. It's just messing with me now. There we go. Initialize job. Checking out the repository. Running cake. Creating tools directory. Welcome to .NET Core 3.1. Tool path. Tool. Executing build. Processing, compiling. It looks good so far. I think that just worked. Fairly sure that just worked. I think that just worked. So it ran .NETcake.exe with the default target with verbose. Okay. I'm gonna get a screenshot of that. I didn't make it up, honest. Let's grab that. Let's do one other thing then, and then I might have to go to my bed. But if we put this down here, and then we go back to here, and we edit. If I go into here and go into advanced, we've now got a bootstrap option. Okay, so let's do two things. We're going to bootstrap. Did it tell me what version of Cake it's running? Oh, it did. Okay, so let's do this. 0.38.3. So I'm running bootstrap and I'm specifying the version number. And let's see what happens. And I guess what I'm expecting to happen here is it will output the fact that it is running cake.tool 0.38.3, and there should be an additional execution for it to run bootstrap. Should do this. It should say bootstrapping build script. Oh, come on, you're just messing with me. Why? Come on. Run. Oh, it's just toying with me. Oh, here we go. It's off. It's off to the races. Right. Here we go. Running Cake. Installing Cake 0.38.3. So it's got the version number and it's done 0.38 cake.tool. Bootstrapping. On its bootstrapping as well. Oh. Oh. I think that just worked too. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. Thank you very much for talking me into shipping that, folks. I think that's just worked. So I think I'm going to call it a night and run. I might just message the Slack team on the Cake team on Slack just to let them know that I've shipped it in case things break tomorrow and they see things before I do. But other than that, I'm fairly sure that we've got a version of the Cake extension for Azure DevOps that uses the .NET Global Tool version of Cake. So, and I wasn't going to do it, Rodney, you're right. I really wasn't. I'm going to grab a screenshot of this so I can let folks know about this one as well. Let's do that again. There. Stop. Stay open. Mother Hubbard. There we go. Right, I'm going to grab that. There we go. Okay, I've got a couple of screenshots. Right, I'm closing out for the night. Next week's stream, I'll be honest, I don't know what I'm doing. Might be back to cake.recipe to try and ship that. We might look at fixing the chocolatey VS Code extension that has got that bug that was mentioned tonight on Twitter. I'll see where we get to. I haven't got a plan there yet, but VS Code extension. Well, no, because if you remember, Maurice, we've done a bunch of work for the chocolatey language server that we haven't finished yet. Not with LSP. No, we're not doing that. No, there's lots of moving parts to get that shipping. Most likely it would be a 0.7.1 release to fix the bug. At some point we do need to get back to that chocolatey language server though to get that working. But that's maybe a challenge for a different evening. I think that there maybe is. Oh, I think you're right now that you say that. I think you're right. Let's go for 0.7.2 then. Let's just bump it. Anyway, right. I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you very much for joining, and thanks for your help in getting this out. Appreciate it, and I will speak to you all in the interwebs. Have a good one. Bye-bye.